So what we'll be talking about in today's webinar, we'll look at how we can monitor our suppliers, how we can classify stocked products, how we can increase visibility and monitor our KPIs, and we'll also take a moment at the end to go through any questions that's come through during the webinar. So first, let's look at how we can monitor our suppliers. The first part is understanding our current supply chain planning processes. So reviewing each aspect of your supply chain and identifying potential risk areas that can disrupt your supply journey. Creating an overview of your supply network and taking note of their manufacturing and distribution locations. Reviewing the readiness of your suppliers and what contingency measures they have in place for when they can't deliver. Understanding the flow of goods and the logistics involved. Often a supplier will use more than one transport route. How does that affect lead time and costs? Identify where you've experienced delays in shipping, manufacturing, or experienced shortages of certain materials. Finding out what security measures your suppliers have in place to prevent cyber attacks. A cyber attack in your supply chain can compromise confidential data, resulting in reputational damage, loss of customers, and financial harm to your business. Source alternative suppliers to deliver inventory. Keep your selection of suppliers open by networking and building solid relationships with alternative vendors. Stay up to date with their terms and conditions, processes, and new product lines. Increasing communication with your suppliers. As soon as you know your supplier is experiencing delays, you can adjust inventory lead times, stock levels, and update your customers immediately. And you can also provide your vendors with what you'll be purchasing with them into the future. So let's now drill down on a product. Here, this item, we have a preferred vendor, and in this case, it's the Consolidated Tire Company. So this is the vendor that we prefer to order from. If we go down to take a look at the Supplier Performance tab, we can see how well that Consolidated Tire Company delivers to this location. We can see whether they've been late supplying us, whether there have been any early deliveries. In this case, most of our deliveries have been in full, but we did have one case where they short supplied us. We can see what our planning lead time is, so what we think we should be getting the item in, which is 45 days. But we have the actual measured average lead time, which in this case is more like 56 days. We can look at those historical purchase orders by clicking on the table. And here we can see who we placed the orders with, what the purchase order number was, when we placed that order, when it was receipted in the warehouse, how many days that took, how many we ordered, and how many was received. So you can see here, majority of the time we've been ordering from that preferred vendor, but we did have 2 purchase orders that we've ordered previously where we ordered from an alternative source of supply, in this case, the Freedom Tires Company. You can see that we still have visibility on those alternative vendors' orders, and we can see when we placed the order, when it was receipted, how many days it took. But you can see at the very end here, these alternate vendor purchase orders have not been used to calculate the lead time or the risks or the safety stock on this product. If we wanted to see our future purchase orders, we can use the Supplier Performance module and view a summary by month of all the predicted purchasing from this vendor at this location. Here we have a list of all the items that we may be ordering from the vendor. We'll tell you how many products you'll be ordering with them. And this is just for the full 12 months. But again, if we had the Extended Planning Horizon module, we'd see it for the full 24 months ahead. We'll tell you what you should be ordering them for the entire year or 2 years. And you can also see that it's taking account of current stock on hand levels. For example, this item here, it appears to be in excess stock because we don't need to order any until December. So Netstock taking account of that when it computes for us this future recommended plan. And then you can easily download this purchasing forecast either to share directly with your vendor and see where they'll have enough capacity or where you may be exceeding their capacity. And you may need to think of sourcing from that alternative vendor or even bringing some orders forward. You could also bring it to negotiation meetings, such as being able to negotiate price break discounts with your supplier. So now let's take a look at how we can classify our stocked items. So we're going to release a poll, which will ask, how often do we reclassify items? The options are daily, monthly, quarterly, or annually, or longer. Great, so a few of you said monthly and one of you said quarterly. So it's crucial, especially when planning for many SKUs, that we have a tool that will automatically update those classifications daily to make sure we stay ahead of the curve, in line with how we're selling today, as opposed to last quarter or even last year. Why should we be classifying those stocked products? Well, do you find yourself planning for many SKUs, especially in multiple locations? Are you able to identify which are your high priority products? Do you know which items you should be reordering? Which of your products are sitting in excess, tying up working capital? And which items need your attention today? So first, let's take a look at how classification works in Netstock. So classification happens in two stages, the first stage being obsolete and non-stocked. So obsolete being products which we are never ordering again, ones that have been phased out, discontinued, superseded, whatever the case, they never appear on the ordering plan, and they'll always be flagged as excess stock that we have to move. Non-stocked items are products which we only order against firm customer demand that exceed our available stock on hand. So these don't operate on min-max levels. We only receive them, or we only place orders from them if we get a firm customer order against that product. The rest of the products going into stocked will then be classified automatically by Netstock based upon two different Paretos. The first Pareto is an ABC, and that can be based on either historical sales or future forecast. And then you can choose to weight it by cost price, selling price, or margin, and you're able to put in whatever percentages you like. So as it stands, if the item contributes to the top 80% of my turnover at cost price, it gets an A ranking, the next 16% a B, and the bottom 4% a C. We then do the exact same thing, but irregardless of cost, and this gives us the movement or the velocity of the products into high, medium, and low. By classifying the items in this manner, we end up with a matrix grid that looks like this. Across the top, we have the A items accounting for 80% of the turnover, and down the right-hand side are high movers accounting for 80% of the product movement. So we can see that this intersection here, our high movers and high contributors, are our most important products. These are the items that we should be spending most of our time, money, and effort on. If we just click on this visualization, you can see that this is my dead zone. And unfortunately, majority of my items are actually sitting down there. They're not moving and they're not contributing. You could start to look at these items and think about, why are we keeping them in stock? Maybe we should be making some of these non-stock products. Each of these little grids now have their own unique characteristics and can determine how frequently we'd like to order them and what kind of fill rate we'd like to achieve on them. So we'll come back to the classification, but first we're just going to look at how we can increase visibility and monitor our KPIs. So what inventory KPIs should we have in place? How do we set, refine, and track inventory? And what are the benefits of setting KPIs? So what inventory KPIs should we have in place? Well, at Netstock, we divide inventory KPIs into two parts, the stock holding and the fill rate. So the stock holding being the amount of inventory a company keeps for future use compared to an ideal model. You can see here we've got a starting point of how much stock we initially had when we started using Netstock. We have our current inventory level today, and then we have our ideal model of where we'd like to go. So the questions that you should be asking your business is, what is your inventory value compared to the benchmark in your industry? Which items do you have sitting in excess? Where are you ordering too much of an item, which will then result in excess stock? The fill rate is the percent of demand met by immediate stock availability. We should be measuring the fill rate and how well we serve our customers. We should be looking at when and where stockouts are occurring, where we'll potentially run out of stock, and when will we run out. Where we're forecasting too much or too little, because if we're forecasting too much, we're going to be resulting in excess stock by purchasing to that high forecast. But if we're not forecasting enough, then potential stockouts will occur. How do we set, refine, and track the inventory? Well, first of all, we classify the products into stocked, non-stocked, and obsolete to know when to reorder products based upon reorder points, which to order ad hoc when the customers place orders with you, and which to never order again that should be marked to clear. And then of those stocked products, knowing which ones we'd like to reorder more frequently and those we'd like to order less frequently, and also setting those fill rates according to where the products sit within that matrix, which we'll look at next. To understand your fill rate targets and track towards them. If you know you keep getting closer to the target, then you know you're going in the right direction. To measure your inventory value, you need to compare it to previous periods and keep tracking it. You know what you want to measure, your target, and how it changes over time. So looking at that grid there, we saw these C high items. So these are C, which means they're in the bottom 4% of contribution, but they're high movers. So now they're in the top 80% of product movement. So these are our fast moving, inexpensive items. They're moving quickly, customers are buying them, but they're not costing us a lot and they're not bringing us much in terms of demand. So when it comes to ordering these products and setting the right policies on them, why not choose to go for the highest possible fill rate? And you could also choose to order larger days worth of stock. In doing so, you're essentially going to get a triple win. You're reducing the number of orders that you place, you're not inflating your inventory by much, and you're also never running out of stock. So you're keeping those customers happy. What about these A-low products? These 76 items are in the top 80% of turnover because they're an A item, but they're in the bottom 4% of product movement, being a low mover. So these are our slow moving, expensive products. Or maybe customers can't find these elsewhere. They may be willing to wait for them, and potentially we could target a slightly lower fill rate on them. We'd also not want to order too many days of cover to ensure that we're not creating any obsolete or dead stock if that product does happen to be phased out or drop off in demand. And what about these A high items? These 135 products, well, these are my most important items. So I probably want the highest possible fill rate for these. Well, currently we're only achieving 85%. So maybe 98% makes more sense for us, but we can always dial in 99.99 and see what that means for us in terms of adjusting those KPIs of our model stock level and our target fill rates. So the power in this is that we need a tool that will automatically adjust our KPIs based upon our stock holding, as well as how that product is moving and selling and contributing within the business. So you can see here we've set some base policies, and I've decided that I'd like to go for a 99.99% fill rate on those A high products. Previously, we were going for 98. So it tells me what my current stock holding is now, which in this case is 7.6 million, and what kind of fill rate I'm currently achieving, which is 86.7. It tells me what my first policy was in terms of what my ideal stock level could be to achieve that policy. And in this case, we were going for an overall fill rate percent of 97. So in order for us to achieve a 97% fill rate, we actually could be holding less stock in the warehouse. So already we know things are not yet in balance in this warehouse. But since we've just modeled a new policy where we've decided to increase the fill rate on just those A high items, those 135 products, we've chosen to go for the high fill rate. We now need to invest another $400,000 into that model stock. And we also could be achieving a 98% overall company fill rate. So it's really powerful to be able to model the different scenarios, apply the different inventory policies on what kind of fill rate we'd like to achieve and how frequently we'd like to order the products to be able to determine what our target fill rate should be that we're working towards and what kind of model stock level we should be trying to achieve when we're placing our orders. So the dashboard then shows us our progression towards that model. So let's open up the dashboard. It tells us where we started, which in this case was $10.8 million worth of stock. We can see that we're trending down towards that model of 5.9. But currently we still have $8.7 million worth of stock in the warehouse. If we're trying to free up working capital, these are the top 5 items holding the most amount of working capital. So we should be looking at those products because they're consuming the most amount of cash. But maybe the reason why we haven't yet achieved that model is because we started with half of our stock in excess. We did manage to bring it down towards the right direction. Some surplus orders arrived, heading back in the right direction, but still a pretty chunky amount, $2.7 million worth, sitting in excess. and just over 2,000 items currently in excess. We don't have time to go through 2,000 items, so Netstock automatically prioritizes our list based upon impact. So the one at the top of the list is going to make the biggest impact on your business first. You can see here, if I was able to clear the excess stock on this product, we'd be releasing about $100,000 worth of working capital. And you can work your way down through the list, and you can always click on here for the full report of all your excess stock items. You can also filter those lists down. You can also see here on the dashboard, things are very visual. We've got those little stocking indicators showing us which ones are our important products and which ones we shouldn't be spending too much time or effort on, those C-low products. So top row of the dashboard is all about our investment level, where we'd like to drill down and release working capital. We also highlight any surplus orders. So these are products which currently have orders on the way that when they will arrive, will be creating or inflating your excess stock issue. So if you could delay or cancel some of those orders, you'll be able to free up working capital immediately and also prevent excess stock from accumulating in your warehouse before that order even arrives. Then we've got a row which is particularly relevant to our service level to the customer. So we'll track your fill rate as soon as you start using Netstock, and we'll show you your improvement towards that target fill rate that you're trying to achieve. So here we started with 79.8. We've currently achieved an 86.7% fill rate, but we're trying to achieve a 98%. So these are your top 5 items that are currently detracting from that fill rate in descending order. This item here, which is stocked out, is potentially costing your business the most amount of money as a result of it being out of stock. So this $150,000 is our expected lost sales value if we continue to stock out of that product based upon its lead time and what we have on order. We also give you a visual dashboard of which products are about to potentially stock out based upon their current stock on hand level, the demand, and when the lead time and next orders are going to arrive. So if we click on that full report, we can see all those potential stock out items. You can see there's a lot of information in these reports, and these are all the potential stock outs. We'll tell you the day we predict you'll run out of stock. So in this case, the 17th of August. We'll tell you how many units you should be getting in before that date to prevent yourself from stocking out. If you're unable to source the stock, we'll tell you what your predicted lost sales value would be. And if you have any stock already on order, then you'll see what that value is. And then if you need to place a regular order on top of this, we'll also tell you how many you should be ordering. So if you're able to expedite or bring orders forward, you can look at what you've already got on order and think about bringing those orders in advance. Or we'll also tell you where you don't have any stock on order, so you should be following up with them urgently. You could also think about sourcing some of these products from your alternative vendor. If you know that you have a local vendor that you can get the product in sooner, then these are the products that you should be ordering from those vendors. So once we set the policy, we're tracking our performance towards that model on the dashboard. We also need a tool that will tell us what our inventory will look like into the future based on those KPIs and the current health of our inventory. And the stock projection model is really powerful in giving us that visibility on how we're going to achieve the KPIs that we've just set for ourselves in the policy. So it tells us what our current inventory is. In this case, it's now 52.7 million. And it tells us what it could be over the next 12 months. Again, if we had that extended planning horizon module, the full 24 months, based upon what we predict you'll be ordering and how the demand will track. So here you can see we're taking 5% out of the inventory over the next 12 months. But I can see from this graph here that it needs to go all the way up to 75 million by December. Maybe I don't have 75 million in budget to be investing in the inventory. So already I know that something needs to change before we start going ahead with the orders. Well, here we can see we're going from 85.8% fill rate all the way up to 97.2. Maybe I can't afford this high fill rate of 97. So this is when we'd need to go back into that policy modeling screen and see if we can target some slightly lower lower fill rate targets. Even if we went for 90 or 95%, it's going to be an improvement from where we are now, but it won't cost us as much to help fill those gaps. Now we can even start to drill down and see, well, what's actually happening to that inventory over the next 12 months? And is there any other areas that we could look at to help reduce tying up working capital? We'll tell you what your predicted closing stock will look like over the next 12 months, what our estimated excess stock would be, what we're already committed to receiving in the warehouse based on firm orders that we've already placed, and then what we project you'll be receiving on top of that based upon our recommendations on orders. So here we can see something pretty alarming going on with that excess stock. We're starting with $25.7 million worth, and it's climbing all the way up to 36.3 by December. What this tells me is that we have over $10 million worth of stock on order that we do not need. If we could delay or even cancel some of those orders, we'll be in a much better position towards reducing inventory, we'll release some working capital, and we may actually be able to go for that high fill rate if we're able to cancel or delay those surplus orders. So the benefits of setting KPIs for the inventory. Well, the use and selection of inventory KPIs can help evaluate operational processes and turn them into financial records. Select Hub believes the purpose of using metrics and KPIs across inventory control systems is to drive the effective behaviors, decisions, and strategies possible. Metrics and KPIs that reinforce the silo-based behavior of many manufacturers, such as data and knowledge hoarding, are being replaced by those that reward collaboration. So in summary, understanding your current supply chain network and measuring and monitoring it, communicating with your vendors, and also having an alternate source of supply for when they can't deliver. Measuring and monitoring, getting to know how items contribute and move within your product, in your business. Increasing visibility. So measuring and monitoring inventory fill rates, predicting and being proactive instead of simply reacting to stockouts and excess stock. Getting to know how products move and contribute within the business to focus time, energy, and money on those important products. A tool that automatically updates your items replenishment policies based upon that classification. The ability to model different scenarios quickly in order to set the KPIs, and gaining visibility on how we'll progress towards those targets over time. Stop wasting time trying to collect and collate data in various error-prone spreadsheets, and instead spend that time taking action against those exceptions.